Classroom of the Elite Season 4 is finally here, adapting the second year light novels. And just like with Season 3, I'm also back with the cut content videos, going over all the moments that the anime adaptation ended up skipping or changed, along with my brief thoughts on the adaptation as a massive fan of the light novels. First of all, I wanna say that I'm so freaking happy that Kadokawa and Studio Lurch are actually putting some effort into adapting the series this time around, unlike the previous seasons. It was almost unbelievable when they announced that they would be dropping 4 whole episodes for the premiere, and having a total of 16 episodes means that the pacing is gonna be so much better than before. Obviously the pacing isn't gonna be perfect, especially for volume 4.5, if the season does end up adapting 5 volumes like everyone is expecting them to. But for these 4 episodes adapting the first volume of year 2, the pacing was actually great, and I can't believe I'm saying this about Classroom of the Elite of all things. In my opinion, 5 episodes would have been a perfect adaptation because some scenes barely had any breathing room, but I'm still satisfied with how these 4 episodes turned out, at least in terms of pacing. I'm very pleased to inform you guys that none of these 4 episodes had any major scenes cut out. The biggest change is still the anime removing 90% of Ayano Koji's monologues. Sadly, it's been happening for the past 3 seasons, and it seems like it's gonna continue even into the second year. Because the entire novel is narrated by Ayano Koji himself, anime-only fans are sadly gonna lose out on what I'd consider to be the main appeal of the entire series. It's a completely different experience watching the series unfold through Ayano Koji's POV, seeing him come to realizations in real time, and learning about his inner thoughts. In this video, I'll only mention Ayano Koji's thoughts when I think it could be interesting or important for the anime-onlys to know about, otherwise we'd be here for hours. So, with that short disclaimer out of the way, let's start with the cut content of episode 1. The first thing I want to mention is the class point situation now that everyone is in second year. I don't know why, but they didn't show the class points even once during these 4 episodes, but here they are. As you can see, Class D is very far behind compared to the other classes, but the interesting thing to note is that Class D went to literally 0 points after their first month, and when you take that into account, they are the class that has gained the most class points throughout the whole entire first year. Next up, when Chawashira Sensei is explaining about the overall ability application, Ayano Koji checks who the highest rated student in their class is, and it turns out to be Hirata with these stats. Koji also mentions that he would be even higher if he didn't crash out around the end of the first year, which was volume 10 of the light novel. We also see the student who's the lowest rated in the entire class, and the position is tied between Ike and Sakura. A bit later, we also see Koenji's stats for OAA, while Koji mentions that the ratings seem to be strictly based on their performance throughout the first year without taking their potential into account. Another piece of info regarding the application stats is that Sakaya Nagiarisu will have her physical ability stat tied with the lowest rated student in their grade instead of calculating her stats differently. The last cut moment from the classroom scene is that Chawashira Sensei, saying that the special exam will have some of the hardest questions they'll face so far, and it will be extremely difficult to get perfect scores. And this info ties directly into the next moment. Ayano Koji and Horikita's bet. Even though this was briefly mentioned in the anime, there is way more focus on Horikita's challenge, which was set up since the last volume of year 1. They both decide to compete on this special exam, and maths is the subject they choose. This was supposed to be a very major scene because Koji had to go all out and reveal his potential to the rest of the class if he wanted to beat Horikita. Another small interaction was Ayano Koji being genuinely surprised after learning that Sudo studies on his own now, and Horikita mentioning that Sudo must be D+ in academics at this point. Moving on to the Hosen encounter scene, we have the first change that I wasn't a fan of. In the light novel as well as the manga, When Hosen grabs Ibuki by the neck, Ryuen actually kicks Hosen to save Ibuki. The anime just had him silently watching, which I found to be quite lame. It was really hype in the light novel when Koji mentions that Ryuen was the only one willing to stand up to Hosen, even when he was being openly violent. Another change during this scene was that Yagami was also present and silently watching the encounter with Hosen. In the end, he eventually tells Hosen to de-escalate after Nanase. Then we have the arrival and introduction of the class 1D teacher. Even though we see him in the anime, I'm pretty sure his introduction got skipped. And that's pretty much where episode 1 ends in the anime. While the scene continues in the light novel with Yagami noticing Kushida during the commotion and going over to meet her, which is how the next episode starts. Moving on to the cut content for episode 2. The first noticeable difference is when Yagami approaches Kushida. In the light novel, Kushida looks very confused for a while when he introduces himself, compared to the anime where she pretty much immediately recognizes him. The next major cut was the anime completely removing Akito's backstory. After the encounter with Hosen, Akito talks about his middle school life, mentioning that he came from the same hometown as Ryuen as well as Hosen and how he used to be in a gang before. The anime also cut out Akito alluding to knowing Ryuen during season 2 content, so it seems like anime onlys will never get to know about his backstory. Then we move on to the Ichika scene, which actually has quite a few differences compared to the anime. First up is the anime cutting out Ichika showing interest in Ayano Koji and asking if he's looking for a partner as well, compared to the anime only showing her interest in Sudo. Horikita says that she'd be happy if Ichika partnered up with either of them, and there's a pretty funny scene where Ayano Koji gets flustered because he's still sussing out the first year students and doesn't want to pair up with anyone yet. Then the anime cuts out Ayano Koji and Horikita trying to gaslight Ichika into believing that Sudo is the strongest, so she doesn't actually go through with the fight club idea. And it actually works out by Ichika backing out and asking for a partner who can cook instead. I'm also pretty sad that the anime cut out this funny panel where Koji is like, "What the hell is Horikita talking about?" This was low-key one of the funniest moments of volume 1, and I'm pretty sad it was different in the anime. Moving on, there's quite a bit of Horikita and Koji strategizing and thinking about the exam that's cut from the anime. Ultimately, it's really not that important though. And next up is the shopping scene with Ichika, which is a bit more detailed and longer in the light novel too. And there are also some monologues of Koji being suspicious of her behavior when they're shopping together. After that, when Ichika enters Ayano Koji's room, the light novel also shows him coaxing Ichika into watching the TV, which would end up masking out the noise from his earplug. Lastly, the anime cuts out a line from Ichika saying that she doesn't really get along with her classmates because of her blunt personality when Koji asks if she can help them with some other partnerships with her class. And that's basically everything from episode 2. So now, let's move on to the next episode, which actually has the least amount of cut content so far. Most of it is just shortened dialogue scenes for the anime. The only few noticeable cut moments are Nanase revealing that the first year students only started with 800 class points compared to 1000 like the previous years. Koji thinks that it could be because the first years had information about how the school worked and the importance of class points unlike their class. Next up is a moment when Ichika comes over to find her hairpin. When she enters the kitchen, Ayano Koji actually stops Kei and she instantly understands that something serious is happening despite how angry and jealous she was being. I thought this was a really cool moment showing Kei's intuition and adaptability that Ayano Koji constantly talks about, so I'm pretty sad this ended up getting cut in the anime. And lastly, the episode cut out a small line of Koji saying that he can't be bothered to deal with Koenji and he would avoid trying to put him in a strategy. And surprisingly, that's basically all of the cut content for episode 3. So now, let's move on to the final episode. This was yet another episode where we didn't have too many cut moments. It was mostly the anime shortening the dialogue scenes and making everything a bit more faster paced instead of focusing on the tension of the scenes. The first major change comes during the knife scene, where it suddenly starts raining in the anime along with the purple filter, which is followed by Ayano Koji letting the knife drop to the ground. I'll be honest, I'm personally not a fan of these changes whatsoever. In the light novel, Ayano Koji made a big deal about the knife staying in his hand so he doesn't bleed out. He even ends up stopping Horikita from trying to remove the knife in the light novel. And the anime adding the rain was a really stupid change because the blood and fingerprints staying on the knife were a major part of Ayano Koji as well as Hosen's plan, and you can see the knife getting soaked in the anime. The anime also cuts out a line of Ayano Koji saying that he won't be able to hide his physical capabilities from Sudo and Horikita any longer. There's also a way bigger focus on their reactions to Ayano Koji in the manga and the light novel. Moving on, the anime also cuts out Koenji partnering up with Nanase very easily, which ends up surprising both Horikita as well as Koji. And finally, it's revealed that a few questions on the math exam from out of curriculum and basically impossible for anyone in their entire grade to solve, and Ayano Koji ended up getting full 100 marks because of his bet with Horikita, meaning that he won't be able to hide his true potential from his class for much longer. And that is pretty much all of the cut content and changes for the first 4 episodes of Classroom of the Elite Season 4. It took a while to get this video out, so leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video or found it helpful. Hopefully the cut content for episode 3 should be out way sooner, so consider subscribing for more Classroom of the Elite and just anime content in general.